Unorthadox Romance. Not all of Lincoln's time was dedicated to noble causes like opposing slavery and championing internal improvements. In 1833, Mrs. Bennett Abell, a New Salem neighbor of Lincoln, brought her sister Mary Owens to New Salem for an extended visit. During this time, Lincoln became acquainted with Mary and found her agreeable. At this time, Lincoln was also romantically attracted to Anne Rutledge, but she died on August 25, 1835. In 1836, Mrs. Abell went to Kentucky to visit her family and in a light-hearted manner told Lincoln she would bring her sister Mary back if Lincoln would promise to marry her. Lincoln, in what he thought was an equally light-hearted manner, agreed to marry Mrs. Abell's sister, a certain Mary Owens. The whole affair took on serious overtones when she returned to New Salem with her sister Mary, and Lincoln suddenly found himself engaged. Upon Mary Owens' return, Lincoln and Mary became reacquainted and Lincoln was not pleased. Lincoln wrote of this interview as follows: "She did not look as my imagination had pictured her. I knew she was oversized, but she now appeared a fair match for Falstaff." Apparently, Mary Owens had aged considerably, as well as having put on noticeable weight. Ironically, Lincoln eventually married Mary Todd, who was also somewhat plump. During Lincoln's time in Vandalia, Lincoln tried to balance honor with personal feelings. He wrote of his thoughts, "I tried to imagine she was handsome, but for her unfortunate corpulence was actually true. I also tried to convince myself that the mind was much more to be valued than the person, and in this she was not inferior." Lincoln also regretted his promise. "I found I was continually repenting the rashness which had led me to make it." After tiptoeing around the issue as long as his honor allowed, Lincoln finally informally proposed to Mary, and she rejected him cold. Lincoln later wrote, "My vanity was deeply wounded." His summation of this whole event can be encapsulated in the final statement, "I can never be satisfied with anyone who would be blockheaded enough to have me."